Hi, this is Peter Godinez, your ambassador with K80Y TV with Good Morning Oxnard. And we have an update with Steve Huber, who is running for the City Council of Oxnard. And so, less of me, more of Steve. Steve, give us an update. You've been working real hard, 75 miles walking.
Yeah.
I almost want to show them your shoes because the soles out of them are kind of worn out.
Yeah, Oxnard is a grassroots campaign city, which means that you have to get out and knock on doors. And I literally have walked over 70 miles. I do have to resole another pair of shoes that I have. And it's been the greatest thing because as I knock on doors, I get to talk to neighbors and find out what their issues are. I get to tell them what I stand for. And I've gotten to know the city so well that I now know which streets don't go all the way through the city and how I can get around a lot quicker and where some of our issues are. So after, hopefully I'll get elected on November 4th, some of the places that I can focus on almost immediately after I get there and see.
Now, you do something that maybe it's not common, but you have a mobile headquarters. So
I do.
You have multiple, so give me a little
Sure.
background on that. I think it's fascinating.
Yeah, I take advantage of technology. I mean, very similar to what you're doing here is that your studio today is in corner pockets, and you can be anywhere. And so I take my smartphone, and I take my campaign buttons, and I will go to different places, and that's my campaign headquarters. So I can work there, I can use the free Wi-Fi from wherever it is. I happen to be going to Starbucks lately, and it's been great, especially if you get there early, and there's lots of folks on their way to work, and so you can actually sit there and meet folks that you haven't met by knocking on their doors, and you can just float around the city with your mobile campaign headquarters, and a laptop and a smartphone, and there you are.
So you really don't have to have the typical brick and mortar and that type of thing. You have cell phones, you have computers, iPads, the whole thing.
Right, responsible budget, I don't need a brick and mortar.
Wow, that's really interesting. So you're collecting a lot of data, and you're going to the people, not only to their houses, but where they gather. Wow,
Yeah.
Go figure, what's that?
There's a lot of other things that I've learned that, folks will see me at football games, soccer games, that's where voters are. Pee-wee football, varsity football. It's homecoming this weekend, and I'll be at a football game then. Bowling alleys, that's where a lot of voters are bowling alleys. It's just, not everyone's at home when you knock on the door, so you have to go where the folks are. Speaking in a lot of different dinner engagements and things like that. So just, you got to get out there, you got to get your name out there, you got to talk and meet the residents, which has been fun. That's where I get energy and I get a lot of ideas.
Well, you definitely are having a balanced approach because I compliment your efforts on social media because you're very consistent on Facebook. And I've actually seen you at different locations where you're speaking and seen you in front of those food wagons or wherever they do. And so it's a very nice balanced approach. But you have collected a lot of data and a lot of information face to face. So I'm sure there's hundreds of sound bites that you can tell us, but if you had to gather some of the top few, what would you say some of the things the people are sharing with you?
Sure. The number one question, without a doubt, is when is the election?
Well, we can fix that one, right? That's
the election is Tuesday, November 4th, first Tuesday in November. Polls open from 7 to 8, and there are smart applications that actually the county recorder clerk just has an app that he published that you can go online and find out where your closest polling place is.
Right.
You can also get it in the newspaper, but there's lots of places to find out where your polling station is. There's vote by mail. You can also go to the county right now and vote, and you can turn your ballot in, your vote by mail ballot, into the city clerk here in Oxnard. They have a voting box as well. There's lots of ways to vote. And there's lots of things that you can vote before the 4th of November by mail, or on the 4th of November at the polling place. So that's been the number one question. That's an easy one to answer.
It is. This is amazing when you know the answer versus knowing that you got to use a lifeline on certain things. And it's real important that I think it's so important that people, if they're going to vote, have a location, they mark it down on their calendar, they put an alarm or whatever it is, because there's such a great opportunity that if you don't mail it in to go, oh, today, oh my gosh, it's 5:30, missed but just both of us encouraging people to write it down, find a location the day before, and make sure you get a schedule to go vote.
Definitely need folks to vote because if we use the primary election as an example, we in Oxnard are the largest city in the county, and we should have the largest voter turnout. But during the primary elections in June, we did not. We actually had fewer voters in Oxnard than the city of Camarillo, which is not even close to our size.
Right.
They outvoted us, so we need folks to vote, to get to the polls, and you know, your vote counts. I mean, we have a council member who won by 36 votes. That is one city block that helped that
That's
person
amazing.
get. And then the last election, 172 votes. That's about 3 city blocks that helped that person get elected. So everybody's vote counts. And across the board, there's lots of folks running. You've had them on KDY-TV and Meet the Candidate. There's propositions. There's lots of ways that you can study and research and make sure you're a smart voter. So I encourage everyone to, actually the city clerk's office has a great disclosure place as well. So you can go online, you can look at the city clerk's office. There's lots of different places that you can research your candidate.
It's a very pleasant environment. I voted down there. But we can talk a lot about that, but that was number one. Number two, what would you say is one of the second things?
One of the things a little bit more serious, most of the folks in Oxnard are looking for leadership. They want to make sure that we can have the city grow.
Okay.
And I'd like to bring new life to Oxnard, which stands for leadership, innovation, focus, and efficiency. And so as folks are looking for leadership, they want to make sure that we have a vision and we follow that, and that we have the ability to stay on track and measure our performance, and so that we continue to move forward. Every day we should get better. And that's what I've been getting from the folks that I get thousands of doors I've been knocking on, and folks that really are concerned that we need to move the city forward and we need leadership.
When you say leadership, what do you think they're crying out for mostly? You know, so when they say leadership, how do you define that a little bit more in terms of action and what's going to ease their pain and say, God, I made the right decision?
Someone who's accountable for their own actions, that's ethical, that has experience, and is able to do critical thinking and make sure that they make the right decision based on the facts. Take all the data that they can gather, do some critical thinking, and then make sure that it's for the good of the city that they make that decision. And so that's how I look at candidates. I don't look at the party that they're affiliated with. I look at their experience, their leadership, how they make decisions, and their track record, and go from there.
You know, it's amazing you mentioned party, because when I look at you, you do such a good job of having compassion on people on the left, the right, the middle. I'm sure it's got to be a little confusing when people see you, they like you, but they got to ask probably, which, do you ever get asked, you know, which party?
Second most asked question is,
oh, really?
What party are you in favor? And it's usually in a whisper, and it's a nonpartisan race, so I'm going to represent all parties. And it doesn't matter to me necessarily what the letter is next to the person. I am a registered Republican, but again, it's like I look at the matters, I can listen to both sides. I want to make sure that we make decisions for the good of the city, not on a party. You know, sometimes I don't agree with the party that I'm affiliated with, and I don't vote straight ticket. I vote for the best person, the best candidate.
Don't you think that's more of the trend nowadays, that you have to be somebody who sees, you know, from everything from left to right, values all diversity, and it's, I think that's a great quality, and I think that's why I was not surprised to hear you say that people have to ask which party that you run in. So you actually gave us number two answers, two. Is there a third? You know, again, is that too much pressure? Because we talked about some really good things. So we talked 1, 2, 2.5. Is there a third thing?
A lot of what people want to know is what's the first thing you're going to do when you get in office.
Okay.
And so my answer to that is having looked at our past and what's happened with the DA's report that made us just have a lot of problems and a lot of bad things in the city. What we never really did, or never really happened, was we never got an 800 waste, fraud, and abuse hotline number. And we don't have an office that can do city evaluation and review. In other words, when someone calls that 800 hotline number, someone's going to look at it and then provide feedback on, this is what we found out, and this is what's going to, it's total transparency when you do that. And so I'd like to be able to get a hotline number for waste, fraud, and abuse, and then make sure that we follow up and investigate that. So that's the first thing I'm going to do, is get that into place.
Good.
The second thing is measures of performance. And then we'll go on. from there.
It's crazy because we talking points like 1.5 questions, 2.5. But I like the way you think. Do you think we covered it, or is there another?
No, I think
go
this is great.
for?
No, I think we're ready to go. And let's make sure everybody gets out there on November 4th between 7 and 8 p.m. 8 p.m. the polls close, but get there a couple minutes early so you can get your vote counted. So please get out and vote.
I think that is really important.
Have you voted?
I
I
have.
voted, so, all right.
I won't tell you
Everybody
how.
should
We have
vote.
kind of a
No.
family thing. I have a new voting member, a 21-year-old, and so I wasn't trying to influence her, but trying to engage her. So it was fun. And until we find a new way of getting more people involved electronically, there's only a few ways to vote. We can't emphasize more that you got to get up or mail your vote in. And then
Exactly.
one thing that's different, go to the county. It's a beautiful experience.
Right.
So you're a likable guy,
Thank you.
Steve, and much Godspeed to you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being on the
Thanks
show.
for having me here.
Always
Thank you.
love it. Thank you so much. This is Peter Godinas, your ambassador with KADY TV. Meet the candidate, and good morning, Oxnard.